This is Wayne Zahn, winner of the 1969 Los Angeles Open, making his third appearance in 4 weeks on the Professional Bowlers Tour here on ABC television. He missed once because of the flu, but today the sweet swinger from Atlanta, Georgia is healthy. And he is the man to beat in the $60,000 San Jose PBA Open Championship. Bringing you competition between the finest bowlers in the world. It's the Professional Bowlers Tour. Live and in color from Saratoga Lanes in San Jose, California, the fourth stop on the 1969 PBA Tour. The $60,000 San Jose PBA Open Championship, the fourth of 13 tournaments. And as you can see, as the Professional Bowlers Tour moves across the country, the bowling fans of the nation will have a chance to see the greatest in action, climaxed by the $100,000 Tournament of Champions in Akron, Ohio. And a good afternoon to you from San Jose, California. I'm Keith Jackson, Chris Schenkel, gentleman who normally hosts this program. San Diego, California this afternoon. My pleasure to be back again with a group of sportsmen that I truly admire and to be working with one of the great names in bowling, Billy Whaloo.
Well, thank you, Keith, and hello, everyone. It's been a very exciting week here from a scoring standpoint, featured by 3 300 games and a 218 average required to make the final round.
And the man who is the man to beat here this afternoon, Wayne Zahn, one of the men who had a perfect game earlier this week in the qualifying. Now, the format of the show goes like this. We have 4 matches for you. We have 5 men. And the opening competition will be the 5th-ranked man against number 4, to be followed by the winner of that meeting, the 3rd man. Then the winner of that match meets the number 2 qualifier, and then Wayne Zahn, the top qualifier, the man to beat. That will be the final match of the day. We have quite a story here today. We have we talk about great names in sports, truly one of the greatest in action here today. Buzz Fazio, 61 next week, and he was the 5th qualifier.
Right, Keith. He's in the number 5 position. Buzz Fazio from Delton, Michigan, who is on the show for the 2nd time in 4 weeks. He's really had a good line. He's been in the pocket all week here at the Saratoga Lanes. Going against the number 4 man, John Gunther, now playing out of Fresno, California, who had a 299 game during the qualifying round. The winner of that first game will then bowl against Don Johnson from Kokomo, Indiana, who was the qualifying leader here with an average of 225. The winner in that match then will go against Billy Hardwick from Louisville, Kentucky in the semifinal game. Billy Hardwick, a 10-time PBA champion. And the winner of that semifinal game will then meet Wayne Zahn of Atlanta, Georgia, who averaged 225 for 40 games and had a 300 game on this pair.
So there they are, the finalists of the $60,000 San Jose Open Championship with Wayne Zahn in the top position. He's the man to beat today. The first match this afternoon, Buzz Fazio of Delton, Michigan, just about 61 years of age, against Johnny Gunther, now in Fresno, California, resident. And Johnny Gunther is up on the left lane at 33 years of age. And the competition is underway.
Keith, they've been playing a line about the middle of the lane, depending on the type of hook that they use. The straighter the shot, the more their starting position is to the right. You will see later Don Johnson to the extreme left. Johnny Gunther here playing about the 13th board.
And Johnny Gunther picks up his spare in the first frame. Harry Smith of Fresno, again with us today, handling the statistics for us, keeping me in the proper fiscal order. I see you again, Harry. Buzz Fazio.
And I think Buzz's finest birthday present would be if he could win here today.
I don't think there's any question about it. I was sitting with him, he and his lovely wife, Bobby, a few minutes last week in Las Vegas, waiting for aircraft to find its way through the storm. There's Bobby. She's been with him on this tour this year. And he was wondering how the physical stamina would hold up, but he sure looks healthy today. A strike in the first frame. Oh, not quite.
Keep the left-hand lane here.
Commenting on the physical stem, I asked Buzz, just before we started today, how it felt this morning when he got up out of bed.
Well, I'll tell you, this morning I felt like I've been drugged to a doctor. I was still sick and sore. So I jumped in the shower, and I must have let it run for about 20 minutes. I come out looking like I was a tomato. But after that, I felt pretty good after I started walking around and do a little calisthenics, and I feel pretty good right now.
Buzz Fazio and Johnny Gunther is competition here in our first match today on Professional Bowlers Tour. Buzz with a strike in the first frame, spare in the second. Johnny Gunther opening with a spare in the first frame. And Buzz right now holds a 1-pin lead over Johnny Gunther. Now, I've known Johnny quite a while. Known him from Seattle, Washington, which is his hometown. And he picks up his spare in the second frame. There's a distinguishing characteristic, I guess, about every athlete and every kind of sport, and the one that I think Johnny Gunther is most proud of is the fact that he has won the Steve Nagy Sportsmanship Award for 2 straight years. That's one to really covet.
Kind of speaks for itself, Keith, when you're elected or voted that honor by your fellow players on the tour.
Picture of intensity. And he's got his strike. So Johnny totals 39 pins through the second frame with a strike working in the third. 1968 Miller High Life champion, which is one of our feature stops along the PBA Tour. Buzz Fazio now in the third frame. He's got a little trouble.
Right, Keith, the right-hand lane does not hook as much from the starting position that Buzz is playing to the pocket. And there you see the ball did not finish enough, did not move enough from right to left to go in and carry that 5 and 7.
Almost got it. So Buzz is open in the third. He totals 47 pins. Through the third, he is down by 12 pins. This man already in Bowling's Hall of Fame, voted into that position in 1963, an All-American 5 times. Still got that. When he has to, he can do it. Johnny Gunther out of Fresno, California, in the fourth frame here in the $60,000 San Jose, California PBA Open. He leads Buzz Fazio in the first match by 12 pins. And he strikes in the fourth. So John Gunther, who started with spares in the first and second frame, now with strikes in the third and fourth. He has a 22-pin lead as he goes to the left lane. The format of our program, in case you are new with us, John Gunther and Buzz Fazio in the first match. And they move along to meet the third qualifier. So Johnny Gunther with 3 in a row. And Buzz Fazio will walk to work now as Johnny Gunther sits down to watch. And Buzz, as he steps up on the fifth frame, he trails by 32 pins.
Very important strike for Buzz here, Keith.
Got it.
That time it was very noticeable, Keith, where he had come in light the previous frame on the right lane and left the 5-7. He directed that ball a little straighter. In other words, he played it a little more to his left on the lane to get it more solidly into the pocket.
Column here in the paper this morning on Buzz, and he, as you would expect a man of his pride to do, disdaining the age factor, saying, we old-timers we've got just as good a form as these young bucks, and he's showing it.
There's the problem of adjustment, Keith. The left lane hooks more. The ball breaks more sharply, moves from right to left more quickly. Buzz adjusting his speed and going more direct. For the right lane, That time was a little on the slow side and a little too direct on the left lane.
Gets his spare in the 6th. So now Buzz Fazio totals 96 pins through the 5th with the spare working in the 6th. And Johnny Gunther leads by 23 pins in the 6th frame. So Johnny Gunther keeping the pressure on now. 4 strikes in a row. Started with the 2 spares, but now has struck 3 through 6. And again swells the lead in total pins in this match. The first of the day to 33. Johnny had a 299 game earlier. We almost saw Ski Forimsky roll a 300. He took 2 runs at it last week in Las Vegas. It's worth $10,000 and a new car, a new Cougar.
There's that sharper breaking ball on the left lane. Playing that track, the ball hooks, and the entering position is determined by the amount of hook that one uses. And you notice Johnny standing more to the left than Buzz Fazio is.
Try to pick up his spare. He didn't do it, left that 10. So he is open in the 7th frame. 154 for John Gunther through the 7th frame, and Buzz Fazio still very much in it. Buzz down by 18 pins here in the 7th frame. Now that cost Buzz. A strike there would have been valuable. I noticed, too, that the Buzz approach is much quicker than that of Johnny Gunther.
Yes, Keith, you will notice that each bowler has their own rhythm, so to speak. The main idea, trying to coordinate the forward momentum of the body with the arm swing so that the ball and the feet reach the release point at the same time. That's perfect timing.
I was fussing with the floor a little bit, too. Johnny Gunther watching. Some of the bowlers don't like to watch, but Johnny does. So Buzz Fazio, he knew he had it, and now it's expressively indicating, I don't know exactly why I didn't figure that out earlier, as he strikes in the 8th frame. He has 135 through the 7th with a strike in the 8th. The Professional Bowlers Tour from San Jose, California. The first event in a full afternoon of sports on ABC television. Wide World of Sports today featuring Alpine's ski competition. The Honenkamm from Kitzbühel, Austria. Cliff diving from Acapulco, Mexico. Followed by the Andy Williams San Diego Open Golf Tournament and Johnny Gunther, who is meeting Buzz Fazio in the opening match today. Johnny had a 19-pin lead as he stepped up on the 8th frame. Now he is in trouble and very possibly could be open for a second successive frame.
Certainly could, Keith. He was a little too careful with that shot, being a little short on the full follow-through, and the ball broke very quickly, moved from right to left.
And he is open in the 8th. So John Gunther now totals 163 through the 8th frame. He leads Buzz Fazio by 8 pins. Take another look at Johnny Gunther, one of the hard workers.
He's holding the ball lower so that his push away does not give him too much leverage in the swing, trying to keep his speed down.
Call him a semi-spinner. I want you to explain that in a moment, as soon as we see what happens to him here on the left lane. In the 9th frame. Strike.
Very noticeable increase of speed there, Keith. Semi-spinner is determined by the position that the thumb comes out of the ball, which happens first, then the turning of the hand around to the side and over the top.
Now, John Gunther sits there. He'll watch Buzz Fazio, and Buzz can take the lead here in the 9th frame. Well, Buzz has always suffered in competition, a very expressive man. He'll mark here with his spare. Unless total disaster strikes him, he gets his spare.
Very tough break there, Keith. He used good speed to hold that ball on a tight line to the pocket. In other words, he went very direct from the point that he laid it down to the 1-3 pocket, and that 2-pin flew right over the top.
Right here it is. Buzz Fazio, 155 through 8 frames with a spare working in the ninth. John Gunther, 163 through 8 with a strike in the ninth. Here's Buzz on the left lane.
Back for Fazio in the 10th. Now, that was really a tough break for him because 3 strikes was prevented by that whistling 4-7. That was a key strike, the first shot there in the 10th. And now, if he can strike on this second ball, he would then go into the lead and force Johnny Gunther to strike in the 10th frame. By getting the strike, and whether he converts this pin or not, he would have 195 if he converts it, 194 if he misses it. Johnny Gunther must mark in the 10th frame, either a spare or a strike.
So for Buzz Fazio, a 195 game. And you know he is terribly disappointed over that. But he will sit down now and watch John Gunther. John must mark in the 10th. Leading by 8 pins. Leaves the 10.
He gave it considerable room. In other words, he started it more out to the right, allowed for the ball to break back from right to left. He did not want to direct it too high and encourage a possible wide-open split. So he needs only to convert this 10-pin to be the winner.
And he marks.
Now, he still needs some count, Keith. We always say stay behind that foul line. He needs to stay behind the foul line and get 3 pins on this ball to defeat Buzz Fazio's 195.
He did it decisively. So John Gunther has won the first match of the day, defeating Buzz Fazio 203 to 195. Johnny Gunther moves a step closer to the first prize of $9,000, and he'll be facing Don Johnson here in San Jose, and we'll have that action for you in just a moment. The Professional Bowlers Tour from San Jose, California. We move now to our second match of the afternoon. This is Don Johnson from Kokomo, Indiana, a 28-year-old, 6-time champion, and he is now going to meet John Gunther, who defeated Buzz Fazio in the first match of the day. Let's see what the Kokomo kid can do. And he opens with a strike. Don Johnson, wife, Mary Ann, watching today, I am sure, in Akron, Ohio. And they are about to have, in their family, their first baby within the month. John Gunther, who just defeated Buzz Fazio. Well, if hoping will do it, there was a wagon load of hope in that one. Both men striking in their opening frame.
There's a great advantage of the speed, Keith. He's trying to keep it slower, getting that mixing pin action, and he was to the right of his target that time, but being slow allowed the ball to move back.
John Gunther in the second frame. 2 in a row for John. John has won 3 times. That's exactly how he wins. Speed is such an important thing. And even the pros lose that touch a little bit. I know that Don Carter last week expressed his gratitude toward our statistician, Harry Smith, for his help in getting him straightened out. Don Johnson. Again, you see the factor of speed entering into it.
That's a very important factor here, Keith. You can see the ball hits very light, or what we call thin. Just barely touches the head pin. But because it's slow, it gives the pins a chance to mix back and forth off of the sideboard. Since Don Johnson uses more hook, plays a wider angle, you see he's standing to the extreme left on the approach, catching the track much later.
Well, I think the groan from the crowd tells a story.
Speaking of catching the track later, the ball did break too late. Therefore, you see it deflect drastically to the right. And in deflecting, does not get the proper pin action. You see how the pin falls short of the 10 and the 5 there, of course, missing the 8. So, disaster, the 8-10 split.
And Don Johnson is open in the third frame with a total of 56 pins through 3, and he trails by 14 pins as John Gunther steps up on the right lane, frame 3. Solid. 3 in a row for John, builds his lead to 24 pins. Got to be talking with Buzz Fazio, as time will allow a little later. I know that you'll enjoy hearing the comments of a great competitor. That comes later today, too. Split the screen for you. Watch the man and the ball.
There you see, Keith, he is playing almost as deep on the left lane as is Don Johnson, but he is not circling it. In other words, he is not going as far to the right, expecting the ball to hook back. He's going a little more direct.
And you can see he's got 4 in a row. Now let's watch Don Johnson. At age 28, 5'10", 150 pounds. Again, great mixing action to get his strike. Don Johnson. We asked him, why is everything falling in place for you this week? Why the hot hand? This is what he said.
Well, I like the inside line, and it's working real well for me this week. And also, I'm going to be a father in about 3 weeks, so I figured I better get on the ball and start making some money.
So you see, Marianne, he's thinking about the future. And he leaves the 7 in the 4 in the 5th frame.
And there you see, speaking of going more direct, it comes in and catches a little too much of the head pin, goes a little too high, breaking too sharply, and the 2 goes around the 4.
Don, the leading qualifier. Trying to pick up the 4, and he does. So there you see, 76 through the 4th frame with a spare up in the 5th, and John Gunther now in the 5th frame, leading by 34 pins. Five in a row for John Gunther.
He's got his speed control just perfect now, Keith. The ball broke back very nicely for him. Started a little to the right. Ball then takes effect. The friction grips the lane, and the spin that he imparts from those fingers. And he knows it's a good one there. You can see from his expression, he's pulling for all 10. He doesn't want to get tapped.
Leading by 44, 6th frame, John Gunther. In a row. Gunther's lead now substantial, 54 pins over Don Johnson. Pressure is now on the Kokomo kid. Well, each week it looks like you've got somebody making a run at that perfect game and $10,000 in the new Cougar. This week it's Johnny Gunther. Same kind of a split he had a moment ago.
Exactly, Keith. He is circling. He is starting the ball from his left, going more to the right, and allowing for it to move back to the left. He's doing this because the track breaks sharply for him at the pocket, where Johnny Gunther has elected to use a little more direct angle.
So Don Johnson through 6. Totals 102, and he is now down by 78 pins.
Takes a little finer touch to play that type of circle from the inside, but Don has had it this week in stretches. He bowled 280 and 268 back-to-back, and he is that type of explosive player.
And Don Johnson with a strike in the 7th. Take a look at him in slow motion.
Has a very fine arm swing, Keith. There you see, puts the ball in motion, fully extended. The arm passes his sliding leg at the leverage point.
Now, here is the man of the moment, John Gunther, out of Fresno. He has 6 strikes in a row in the 7th frame. He is still alive. I'll tell you, that is as close to being the last gasp as anything I've ever seen, Billy.
Keith, we speak about bowling being a game of timing and coordination, not one of force and power. And you do not need the mighty arm. You need the tender touch, and never could you tell it more necessary than that last strike.
7 strikes in a row for Johnny Gunther. He's in the 8th frame on the left lane. And the crowd has come alive as John Gunther has 8 strikes in a row.
There you see it, a string of 8, and we would like to remind our viewers that we did have 3 300 games here already during competition this week.
Don Johnson on the right lane, and he has his 2nd strike in a row, striking in the 7th and again in the 8th. Don won the Japanese Invitational last year in Tokyo and the Portsmouth, Virginia Open. He has 6 sanctioned 300 games.
And there you see he has elected to go straighter with a little more speed rather than to circle, but I think it's going to be a little bit late for him.
Now everybody settles down, including Don Johnson, to watch this man, John Gunther, with 8 strikes in a row. 9th frame.
I think that was the key, Keith. He very well could do it now. He favors the left lane.
Well, we're kind of in a position of where you are sometimes at the old ball yard. When your fellow's got a no-hitter going, do you talk about it? Of course you talk about it. He knows it. 9 strikes in a row. The man on the ball. See what happens to those pins. This is the 10th frame. 10 in a row for Johnny Gunther.
Very confident, too, Keith. He likes that angle. He's playing it direct, catching the track late. The ball is settling in the pocket. I think we could very well see him do it here, Keith.
Johnny Gunther has 10 strikes in a row. This is the 11th.
That's it, Keith. When you get that 11, the crowd really comes alive because they know that now this is it. There you see it. 11 big strikes in a row. And now for the all-important 12. $10,000 and a new Cougar, all on this ball.
There's nothing left to say. Let's just watch it.
There you see it. It tells the story. The crowd tells the story. A perfect 300 game.
Johnny Gunther, congratulations. Turn around here so we can take a good look at him. Take a look at one of the happiest men you'll ever see in your life. Johnny, tell us, how many times have you done this in sanctioned competition?
Just twice before, Keith. Both of them in Seattle. I don't know I can't explain how I felt throw that last ball. You couldn't hear a thing, and I was kind of trying to concentrate on how I threw the last two shots to throw the same shot again. It's nerve-wracking.
You know, of course, you get a new Cougar.
I sure do.
You know what this is?
I have an idea.
Is a check for $10,000 for your perfect game.
You notice my hand is shaking a little. Thank you very much, Keith. Wonderful.
Johnny, thank you. One of the great thrills in sports, Johnny Gunther, a perfect game in competition, and he will continue. We'll be meeting in just a moment the latest man to bowl a 300 game in competition, so we'll have the action live from San Jose, California, right after this timeout.
And now, with a word of interest to all of you, here's Bob Lamont.
No matter where in the world you're on duty today, you can know what's going on in any other part of the world through the facilities of Armed Forces Press and Information Media. That's today. But how about the American serviceman around the time of the War of 1812? There certainly was no television coverage of the attack on Fort McHenry, or a bulletin on Francis Scott Key's composition of the words to the Star-Spangled Banner. With the changing times have come dramatic changes in our means of communication. Today we have almost instant contact with any part of the world. Today's ideas are translated into words and action on a worldwide scale in a matter of hours. If the news of the day you receive is more than 24 hours old, you conclude there must have been an interruption in transmission somewhere along the way. Armed Forces Radio and Television, the many information and education films, the countless pamphlets and periodicals, all exist to inform you and keep you informed.
Don Johnson of Kokomo, Indiana, who is finishing his count at 188. And obviously, Johnny Gunther is the big story. Johnny with a perfect game. And Johnny will move on now to meet Billy Hardwick. And here's a look at the top 16 for the week. And the competition, Billy Waylew, has been pretty tough here at Saratoga Lanes.
Yes, it has, Keith. Bobby Cooper, Joe Joseph tied for the final spot with 432 over. That's a 218 average. Going up the line, Joe Joseph, Lansing, Michigan. Bill Tucker. Al Pujol, newcomer on the tour, making the finals for the first time. Dave Sutar from nearby Gilroy, California. Don Glover returning to the 16-man finals again. The hometown pro here, Jim St. John. Jim Godman, 1966 winner of the San Jose Open. Tommy Tuttle, who bowled a 300 game in the qualifying round. And the defending champion, who wound up in 6th position, the alternate to the telecast show here today, Bill Allen.
Now everybody back in their seat and settling down as we prepare to watch and tell you about the match between this man, Billy Hardwick, out of Louisville, Kentucky, against Johnny Gunther. Billy Hardwick starts it off with a strike on the left lane. Now, Billy Hardwick has been he's a young man, but he has been one of the top bowlers, competitive bowlers in this country for many, many years. And it'll be interesting to see how this one goes. This is John Gunther.
He's still got the groove. And by virtue of bowling his 300 game, he became the second man to do it on the ABC telecast, Jack Biondolillo being the first in the Firestone Tournament of Champions.
That $10,000 check went through my fingers so fast I didn't have time to fondle it and look at it. But I know it's the pure pleasure of doing it alone is worth a great deal for a man.
Well, he's got 14. 300's a tough act to follow, Keith. Can he do it again?
I think somebody better get on the phone to the boss and say, do we give him another 10 grand if he bowls another perfect game? Billy Hardwick. So both Hardwick and Gunther open with a pair of strikes.
Billy Hardwick has been leading or near the lead all week from the opening block. And he's played a very consistent line, most of the time right straight up the track, about the 10th board.
Well, I think he knew that the minute he turned it loose.
Yes, he did, Keith. You noticed a slight pull. He got to the line a little bit ahead of the ball, had to pull it through, and pulling it like that, he started it a little bit inside of his target line. Since he doesn't throw much hook, it did stay in the track and almost carry a strike.
Oh, he'll try to pick up the 4. He does. This is kind of expectant Father Week, I guess. Billy Hardwick out of Louisville, Kentucky, his wife, Marilyn, expecting their third child any time. Oh, Johnny Gunther, third frame. Open with a pair of strikes on the right lane.
And he's got 15 consecutive strikes. There you see it, Keith. Beautiful speed control, excellent pin carry.
You know, if he rolls another perfect game, he might very likely go home with more money than you, Billy.
Thanks a lot, Keith. There you see it, positioning that ball very careful, very fine concentrate.
I don't think he was all that sure, but he got it through there. Billy Hardwick, who has a tiger by the tail. He is locked in combat here at the Professional Bowlers Tour in San Jose, California, with John Gunther and Billy Hardwick with a strike in the 4th frame. So Billy totals 69 pins through 3, a strike working in the 4th. He is down by 21, now in the 5th frame. We'll see what happens. John Gunther has 16 successive strikes, a perfect game. He has 4 strikes in a row in his match here with Billy Hardwick. He defeated Buzz Fazio in the first match. Billy Hardwick, the 5th all-time leading money winner. And he is only 27 years of age, 6 feet, 165 pounds. He has won 10 PBA championships. Billy in the 5th frame gets his spare. So Billy Hardwick, 89 through 4, a spare working in the 5th. And now John Gunther in the 5th frame with 4 strikes in a row in this match 16 successive strikes, he defeated Don Johnson with a perfect game. Incidentally, he gets another 10 grand if he rolls another perfect game.
Oh!
Well, Billy, why?
Keith, playing that direct angle and at that slower speed to maintain good pin action, he got a little more lift on that ball, and it broke a little sharper. He had his same target, and here you're going to see it. Same target hitting into that pocket. But there you see the ball finish very strongly, sending that 2 around the 4.
Johnny picks up his spare in the 5th.
So close, and yet so far.
Well, it broke the pressure. Eased the tension on our wallet. Did all sorts of good things. Besides, it had built a bigger garage. John now in the 6th frame. Boy, when it let go in a hurry, didn't it?
Yes, it did, Keith. They're trying to get the speed. You're going to see he pulls that ball slightly to the left of his target, and he goes up into the nose, or what we call too much of the number 1 pin, and charges right through, especially on the left lane, which breaks so sharply.
Close. So John Gunther, breaking the tension and the pressure, is open in the 6th frame. He totals 135, and he has a 6-pin lead over Billy Hardwick. Billy now up in the 6th frame. Great mixing to get that 4 and 7 down. Billy Hardwick, who bowls a lot, has a little different tactic in taking care of his hands. Here's what he says.
I bowl on the average of about 1,000 games a year, and I have no joint in my ring finger, so I have to keep the hold from my ball very loose so I can stand the pressure.
So now Billy Hardwick has taken the lead over John Gunther. Billy with strikes in the 6th and 7th frames, totals 109 through the 5th frame. And John Gunther, coming off the perfect game after 4 strikes in a row, lost the 4th pin in the 5th frame, was open in the 6th, totals 135, and he trails by 4 pins as he goes to work here on the right lane in the 7th frame, and he gets a strike.
There you saw him trip that 4 pin out. The ball was breaking sharply for him again. Not quite as much as before. Therefore, that 2 got the 4 and carried it straight back.
Well, we've been kind of laughingly referring to the Professional Bowlers Tour on ABC television this year as the Wayne Zahn Show, since Wayne's been on 3 out of 4 weeks. But Johnny Gunther has become something of the star today, I'll tell you. Johnny has a chance here in the 8th frame to regain the lead from Billy Hardwick. And that strike will do it.
Straight through shot there, Keith. Had good target line.
Well, this is Keith Jackson along with Billy Whaloo at the $60,000 San Jose PBA Open Championship. This is Billy Hardwick with a strike in the 8th frame in his match with John Gunther. And it is the 3rd match of the afternoon. Johnny Gunther defeated Buzz Fazio in the opening match 203 to 195. Then Johnny came back with a perfect game to defeat Don Johnson. And here he is locked up in a tough one with Billy Hardwick in match number 3. Hardwick right now standing ready for the 9th frame, leads by 4.
There you see it, Keith. The left lane moving a little bit more. Billy Hardwick earlier left the 4 pin on that lane. Here you're going to see that 2 pin going around the 4, playing it direct. Like Buzz Fazio, Billy Hardwick uses a full roller type release. That is where the ball tracks between the thumb and fingers. So he's going very direct and didn't get the kickback off the wall.
So Billy Hardwick has a spare in the 9th frame. Totals 188 through 8 with that spare working in 9. Now here's a big one for Johnny Gunther. He's down by 3. He can regain the lead here in the 9th frame. And, of course, set up things for the 10th. Well, it didn't really matter unless both of them toppled over. And the 7 teetered and tottered and fell into the pit.
Well, that was the importance of that shot in getting a strike there, Keith. It set him up for the 10th frame on the left lane, which has been his favorite here today.
And John gets his spare. But he is down by 4 pins.
Presuming that Billy Hardwick would mark in the 10th frame, Johnny Gunther then, in order to take the lead, would need 2 or 3 strikes, at least a double here in the 10th frame.
If he loses, he wins $13,000 today. If he wins, he's guaranteed $15,000 winning this match. If he wins a whole bundle, of course, it's $19 grand. And a strike.
Still alive, Keith. Getting that strike now forces Billy Hardwick to at least mark. If he can strike on this ball, he would send his game into the 230s and force Billy Hardwick to double. This is, even though he bowled a 300, he needs a strike to continue and have a shot at the $9,000. Needs a strike on this ball.
And he's on his favorite lane. Got it.
Letter perfect under pressure, Keith. For that much money, needing that many strikes, a lot of pressure. By getting that strike, Johnny Gunther is now leading by 6 pins.
So John Gunther has a 233 game. 203, 300, and 233.
Now Billy Hardwick, in order to win, needs 2 strikes and then 6.
He's on the right lane, which has been his best lane.
He played it up in there. He went for it boldly. A little slower where his ball has been holding. There you see it. Charged through. Catching too much of the head pin and not settling into the pocket.
So John Gunther defeats Billy Hardwick. And the story of the $60,000 San Jose Open Championship is almost history. Johnny Gunther getting set to meet Wayne Zahn from Atlanta, Georgia. At stake, the championship and $9,000. We'll be back in just a moment.
Brazil. Whether you're there on leave or on a tour of duty, make it a must to see Rio de Janeiro, like Douglas Peterson did. Peterson liked the view from Corcovado Peak. He got a kick out of soccer at Rio Stadium. And he was really dazzled by Copacabana Beach. Peterson found the pocket guide a big help. And he found another big help was knowing how to speak Portuguese.
Os bandas daqui são como os de São Francisco.
São bem velhos, mas assim mesmo ainda gostamos muito deles.
Estou curioso para saber por que vocês falam português em vez de espanhol.
Este país foi descoberto por navegador português, Pedro Álvares Cabral.
Brasil é uma palavra portuguesa?
É sim, veio do latim Brasile, uma madeira nativa que era usado como corante.
O Rio de Janeiro é uma beleza da cidade.
Muito obrigado. A propósito, você fala a nossa língua muito bem.
Learn the language of the country where your tour of duty takes you, or where you might spend your leave. It can make your stay a lot more fun. There's plenty of opportunity to learn foreign languages in your branch of the service. through foreign language laboratories, correspondence courses, or group studies, your education officer can give you complete information on foreign language instruction.
Standing here with Buzz Fazio, who's about to enjoy a birthday next week, and you mentioned earlier today you spent a lot of time in the bathtub soaking to get up, come out here and run around with the youngins today, Buzz. But this must be a very satisfying week for you to make the 5 finalists.
It certainly has, Keith. I'm tickled to death to be able to hold the pace these little fellas are really putting on for it. And Johnny Gunther's been bowling so tremendously all week. And Dave Davis and I was talking a little while ago when he got to 6, and Dave says, you know, there's a possibility. I says, well, 2 will get you 5 that he'll make it, because he's been running 8, 9, 10, 11 strikes practically every other game.
We watched Ski Ferenski last week run 807 series over in Las Vegas, and of course that's the town where the odds tend to jump up and bite at you. But here this Billy Whaley indicated the same thing, and particularly when he came up to a critical moment, was able to roll on that left lane.
Correct, because that if there's anybody's going to stop striking, it might be on 17, because the ball really moves sharply at the end, and that's what causes the 4-pin or 4-7 jump, you know, and so you got to keep the ball real loose and rolling pure, and Johnny just had the right tempo of speed, which, you know, gives him a chance to carry better.
Buzz, are they doing anything different today? Let's 20 years ago, admitting going in, the equipment is so much superior to what it used to be.
That's right, Keith, and not only that, don't forget, the youngsters of today are schooled a lot earlier than us fellas did 20, 30 years ago. So naturally, these boys that's in their early 20s know as much about the game as the old-timers did when they were 40, 50 years old.
What do you find out, though, as you go from week to week and tournament to tournament? Obviously, you look for things relative to the lane, the placing of the ball, but what else can you determine about yourself?
Well, naturally for myself, I can speak for myself, Keith, is that I try to stay in shape, because if you're not in shape, you don't belong on the tour. And if you make a mistake or two here and there, well, you're going to be left out. So I feel like this, youngsters might liable to make a mistake a lot quicker than me. But as it has been happening, I've been making a mistake.
Is it a physical problem, or is it more of a mental problem in this kind of competition?
I would say, Keith, that it's the mental that fatigue more than actually my physical, because I feel real great, and I don't believe I've ever felt as good my whole life as I have the last few weeks.
Buzz, what about the future of bowling? There was a time when it looked like it would go completely into orbit, then it tended to level off, and now it seems to have reached a stabilized position in sports. Do you anticipate anything radical new that might trigger into another explosion of bowling?
I would say, due to the fact that we're very happy being associated with ABC television, and I think if we had bigger places, I think then we could take our place among with the other sports. And I think in that respect we'll really go a long way. The other part, I says, building of establishments and teaching a lot of bowlers and showing them the game, I think has come along real well, too.
Well, you have given me, you have given everybody who's ever watched bowling all the thrills in the world, and we want to see you around you forever.
Well, thank you. I don't know how long, but I'm enjoying every minute that I'm here.
How many tournaments will you try to hit this year?
I'm going to take the whole winter tour.
Great, Buzz. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Buzz Fazio. So we're ready now for the championship match between Johnny Gunther and Wayne Zahn. And here we go from the Professional Bowlers Tour in San Jose, California, the championship match. Johnny Gunther with 26 strikes this afternoon in 3 games. He has defeated Buzz Fazio. He rolled a perfect game to defeat Don Johnson, and he edged Billy Hardwick 233 to 214, and now it's against Wayne Zahn, and he opens with a strike.
That shows you the concentration, Keith. He wasn't quite ready. Started, brought himself back, and restarted his shot.
Now Wayne Zahn, who has been with us on 3 out of the 4 weeks. He has been in among the 5 finalists. He won the Los Angeles Open, which was the opening event on the Professional Bowlers Tour on ABC. he opened with a strike.
The stage is really set here, Keith, because Wayne Zahn, during the qualifying rounds, bowled a 300 game on this pair. Johnny Gunther with a 300. Let's see what happens.
That's right. These same two lanes, the spot where Wayne Zahn had a perfect 300 game. Of course, we saw just a few minutes ago, and if you saw it, you're going to walk around kicking yourself for quite a while, because it's one of the most dramatic moments in sports you can ever see. A man to roll a 300 game. Johnny Gunther did it, and Wayne Zahn runs into a little trouble in the second frame.
There you see, pushing the ball away from the body as he starts the ball in motion. That's called a push away. Putting it down here into the straight arm motion. Then we call that the pendulum swing. Ball swinging forward and back. Up, full height of the backswing, bending the knee as he comes forward for that leverage position for that good follow through.
And Wayne Zahn knocks off the fourth pin in the second frame, and we'll take a look at Johnny Gunther now. As he moves into the second frame, Johnny Gunther opened with a 203 to 195 win over Buzz Fazio. Then he rolled a perfect 300 game in defeating Don Johnson, winning $10,000 and a new Cougar. He defeated Billy Hardwick in the third match, 233 to 214. And here he is on the right lane in the second frame against Wayne Zahn, and he has 2 strikes in a row, and he leads by 10 tenths.
Certainly going to give him enough money, Keith, to head east as we go to Denver, and then the Ebonite Open in Kansas City, and then move on to the Cougar Open in Paramus, New Jersey.
Not to mention the Miller High Life in Milwaukee, winding it up in Akron with a $100,000 Firestone Tournament of Champions. Johnny Gunther. 2 strikes in a row in his favorite lane in frame 3. Got it!
A great kick on that fourth, Keith. Again, that's that speed control. Wayne Zahn using a little more speed, Billy Hardwick a little more speed, and Buzz Fazio a little more speed on the left lane to hold that than is Johnny Gunther, and he got a kickback.
Wayne now in the third frame. Down by 20 pens. Hold a string on that one. Take a slow motion look at Wayne Zahn's form here.
And again, you see the full extension of the arm. That means that it can swing freely. You're not going to muscle it from this position. Now, he has a higher backswing, partly because he bends forward slightly at the waist, and he twists his hand in the backswing for timing effect. Then it brings him forward, ball and foot at the same time in that low leverage release position.
Back to live action, left lane in fourth frame. So Wayne Zahn, after leaving the fourth pin standing in the second frame, has come back with 2 strikes in a row. John Gunther with a 10-10 lead over Wayne Zahn in the championship match here in San Jose, California, in the fourth frame. 3 strikes in a row. He's already rolled a perfect game this afternoon. Just a few minutes ago, he defeated Billy Hardwick 233 to 214 in a tough one. Well, he's got 4 in a row. He leads by 20 pens over Wayne Zahn. This afternoon, he has rolled a total of 30 strikes. This is his 4th match. Johnny now in the 5th frame. Split the screen for you so you can watch the man as he releases the ball and watch the action on the pins.
Got that same trip action back on that fourth, Keith.
5 straight strikes for John Gunther. We might have to carry him out of here if he rode another 300 game. Well, he's got himself a pretty good fella right here. Wayne Zahn, 28-year-old from Atlanta, Georgia, an 11-time PBA champion. Wade's having a little trouble with that 4.
Playing that direct angle from the inside like that, when the ball breaks sharply at the 1-3 pocket as it enters the triangle of the pins, facing that possibility. Johnny, with a little slower speed, ball not breaking quite as sharp, is getting that 2-pin back off the wall.
Wayne Zahn gets his spare in the 5th, and through 5 frames for Johnny Gunther and Wayne Zahn, Gunther leads by 31 pins. That man just immediately to the right and closest to Wayne Zahn is Bill Allen, who won the San Jose Open last year and was the alternate today, having finished 6th among the qualifiers. Steps. And a strike in the 6th frame.
Certainly want to congratulate our hosts here, Mr. Frank Thatcher and Steve Nakashima, and their fine staff for a fabulous week here at the Saratoga Lanes.
You know something? That 300 game woke up Joe Richards. He's been awake all afternoon. Joe, of course, the dean of the bowling writers for the New York Daily News. Johnny Gunther, right lane, 6th frame. He has 5 strikes in a row.
Almost got that kick again, Keith. He went a little more direct on the right lane than he has been going, and it broke a little sharply for him. But there you see that value, that speed and angle. He still almost tripped that 4 out.
Well, we'll take a look as he tries to pick up his spare here in the 6th frame. He does.
Now, there our viewers could see a very direct angle from right to left into the 4-pin. The lane does not break as sharply on the left-hand side as it does in the track, and he didn't want to take a chance on catching the track and not break back or move from right to left.
Now Johnny with a 30-pin edge in the 7th frame on his favorite lane from the left side.
Seem to loft that ball a little more onto the lane, Keith. If this is done, as he releases, he catches a little bit more of the release fingers wise and imparts a little more break. And here you're going to see that break. Breaking sharply and not getting that kick back. You see it sends the 2 around the 4.
And he gets his mark in the 7th frame. So Johnny Gunther, 158 through 6, a spare working in the 7th, a 29-pin lead over Wayne Zahn of Atlanta as Wayne steps up on the right lane in the 7th frame. Wayne Zahn. Well, there's the bowler's nightmare.
That's sort of the crusher, really, for Wayne Zahn. That was the all-important strike. He needed that for the double, cut the margin, and not only didn't get the strike, comes up with what very well could be an open frame. He's going to move to the left, try to slide the 6 across into the 7th, barely touch the 6 on the right-hand side. Going to see it, Keith. Barely touched that 6. You see the ball. He didn't hook it sharply. Played a left to right sliding angle so that the ball did not break into the pin. Just touched it. Executed perfectly.
Well, we've seen the 300 game already today. And you can see Wayne Zahn, who ranks 2nd among the 1969 money winners. And he was the man in the pit today. Just pull off an incredible shot. And you have to think that Lady Fate is sort of turning her back on you when you come up with those kind of conditions back-to-back, Billy.
Well, he's playing it very direct, Keith, not wanting to swing it too wide, as did Don Johnson, playing it too far out to the right and breaking in late and leave the 8-10. Playing it direct, ball is broken sharply for him, moved too much to the left, right at the pocket.
This is virtually the same shot from the other side.
Right.
And he couldn't pull that one off. Well, as you can see, Johnny Gunther with a 42-pin lead, a 43-pin lead over Wayne Zahn. And Johnny now in the 8th frame on the right lane. Trying to win it all.
That was a big shot for him, Keith. Now he can afford an open in the 10th frame if he gets a strike here in the 9th, even if Wayne Zahn would strike all the way out, leading by 43.
I might say, too, that even in defeat, Wayne Zahn is assured of $5,000 should he lose. Of course, he hasn't lost yet. But the second-place man gets $5,000. 9th frame for John Gunther.
Oh, he's been tough today. And he knew it. He really wanted that one very badly, Keith. That was what we call the lockup strike, because now he can't afford an open in the 10th frame. If Zahn strikes all the way out, he would have 215. Johnny Gunther would still have a game in the 230s.
$155 for Wayne Zahn through the 8th frame, which was open. Here's part of his grief here in the 9th frame. And he gets a spare in the 9th. John Gunther will be going home today with $19,000.
That's not a bad week's work. Anytime, anywhere.
And a new Cougar.
And I think he'll be going home in that new Cougar.
Yeah. He's, well, I don't know of a fella that I'd like to see win it any more than John. Here's Wayne Zahn, left side. The 10 teeters and then stands up. Now it's a matter of totals, but we do know that Johnny Gunther has won. He defeated Buzz Fazio in the first match, 203-195. It was in the second match against Don Johnson that he became the second man in the history of Professional Bowlers Tour on television, enrolling a perfect game. Wayne Zahn gets his spare in the 10th. Then in a very close match in which nerves became an important factor, Johnny Gunther edged Billy Hardwick 233-214. Now he has defeated Wayne Zahn in the championship match, getting the $10,000 in the new car for the perfect game and $9,000 first place money here in the San Diego Open. So Wayne Zahn strikes and closes out at 194. Remember, coming up later this afternoon over most of these ABC stations, Wide World of Sports featuring alpine skiing competition from Kitzbühel, Mexican and American teams in competition diving off the cliffs of Acapulco, and then the Andy Williams San Diego Open Golf Tournament from San Diego's Torrey Pines.
Keith, that strike puts him into the 250s. His first 3 games, 736. He gets this strike, he'll put him in the 260s and average 250 for the 4 games.
Got it.
And by virtue of getting that strike, Keith, we could have in successive weeks our second 800. If he gets a strike on this ball, he would have an 801 series for the 3 games, the last 3 games in succession.
There it is. A 268 final count for Johnny Gunther. He has won it. Here's the applause for the man who has won the San Jose Open Championship, Johnny Gunther. That's the kind of music that a competitor of the caliber of this fella should always get, because you gave us a great thrill this afternoon. Of course, that match you had with Mr. Hardwick was tough, and then you get in there against Wayne Zahn.
And they're all tough, Keith. I just feel very fortunate to be able to win, and, you know, if Buzz strikes out the first game, maybe I never got to bowl that second game. So there's a lot of different possibilities that could have happened, so I feel very fortunate.
Johnny, reflecting back for just a moment, as you look at yourself in competition here when you came up with that final strike, how does it look? Watch yourself and tell me how it looks to you as you go back for a moment.
Well, I know I always take a lot of time, and I sort of push the ball back and forth, bounce it a little bit to get going, and I even took more time on the last shot, and after I threw it, I thought the ball was high, but the ball sort of sailed a little bit, and although it did hit the pocket solid, it fell back a little bit.
And then came the most rewarding moment of all. Frank Thatcher, come on in here with that great big trophy that you've got for Johnny Gunter.
Hello,
Thank
John.
you, Frank.
This has to be the #1 trophy in your repertoire, I think. Is that right, John?
Well, San Jose has always been one of my favorites, and from now on, it's going to be my favorite. Always.
John, I think so. John, I still owe you $100 for that 300 game. Would you like to have it?
All right, while you're looking at that, let me lay these two pieces of paper out here that will be memorable as well. $10,000 check and a $9,000 check, $19,000. Johnny Gunter, your champion.
Thank you very much.
Our next stop on the Professional Bowlers Tour is Littleton, Colorado, and ABC Sports will be bringing you the final rounds of another great PBA tournament, the $50,000 Denver PBA Open, 1 week from today. Our thanks to the Professional Bowlers Association, its Executive Director, Eddie Elias, and Saratoga Lanes for their cooperation on today's telecast. Prize money furnished by the PBA and Saratoga Lanes. The executive producer of the Professional Bowlers Tour is Roone Arledge. This series produced by Doug Wilson and directed by Mike Friedman. Associate Directors Joe Assetti and Don Rushton. Technical Director Walt Kudos. The finest bowlers in the world, you have seen the fourth event of the 1969 PBA Series, live and in color from San Jose, California. The $60,000 San Jose Open Championship on the Professional Bowlers Tour.